Ever since her first appearance in the Season 4 premiere, New York-based researcher Zena Halpern and her work have enjoyed a place of prominence in the History Channel's TV series, The Curse of Oak Island. During her Oak Island debut, Halpern introduced the Men of Oak Island Tours Inc. to 3 mysterious documents: the cryptic cipher dubbed La Formule, a map of Nova Scotia bearing the date 1179, and a map of Oak Island labeled in French, bearing the date 1347. In Season 4, Episode 2, the Oak Island crew investigated a potential connection between New Ross, Nova Scotia, and a point on Halpern's map of Nova Scotia bearing the label Rodon. In Season 4, Episode 5, the crew investigated an anomaly on Oak Island which seemed to correspond with a point on Halpern's Oak Island map, labeled the Hatch, but which proved to be a natural feature. In Season 4, Episode 12, Rick Lagina and Doug Crowell met with Zena Halpern in Roslyn, New York, after which the theorist outlined her ideas regarding the nature of the money pit and the identity of its depositors. In Season 4, Episode 14, the treasure hunters attempted to decrypt Halpern's La Formule document. In Season 5, Episode 9, members of the Oak Island team traveled to the Château de la Rochefoucauld in France to investigate a potential connection between the noble French house of La Rochefoucauld and a mysterious message scribbled in the margins of Halpern's Oak Island map. In Season 5, Episode 13, Halpern weighed in on the lead cross found at Smith's Cove, opining that it represented the sign of Tanit, the symbol of a goddess worshipped by the ancient inhabitants of Carthage. And in Season 8, Episode 5, the Fellowship of the Dig searched for the anchor points on Halpern's map of Oak Island, following a lead introduced by Geographic Information Systems expert Aaron Helton. In Season 6, Episode 4, following Zena Halpern's passing at the age of 89, Rick Lagina and Peter Frenetti drove to Halpern's home in Long Island, New York, to take possession of the research files which Zena had bequeathed them. While browsing the files, Rick came across a booklet called the Cremona Document, which he claimed was, quote, at the core of Zena's research, unquote. The narrator proceeded to explain that this document was discovered in the 1970s in a church in Cremona, Italy, and constitutes the documents authored, in part, by 12th century Templar Knight Ralph de Soudely. Specifically, these documents describe treasures discovered beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount, and a medieval transatlantic voyage to North America. The Kimono Document was first introduced to the general public in Zena Halpern's 2017 book, The Templar Mission to Oak Island and Beyond, The Search for Ancient Secrets, The Shocking Revelations of a 12th Century Manuscript. The first half of Halpern's book chronicles the adventures of a mysterious character named Dr. William D. Jackson, an American researcher with purported connections to a covert, off-the-books U.S. intelligence agency. William Jackson's tale reads like a mystery thriller novel, replete with secret societies, cryptic warnings, lost journals, and coded messages written in invisible ink. Jackson's story begins on a summer day in 1968, when he and 3 friends went fishing off Bannerman Island in the Hudson River, about 50 miles north of New York City. Bannerman Island is dominated by Bannerman's Castle, a Scottish-style fortress commissioned by Scottish-American arms merchant Francis Bannerman VI in the early 1900s. During the fishing trip, Jackson decided to steal a stone ornament from Bannerman's castle for his wife's garden. A year later, Jackson's son, Mark, while playing in said garden, broke the top off the stone ornament, revealing a hidden container inside. Within this container was a mysterious brass object, engraved with strange symbols. This discovery prompted Jackson to follow a string of clues, which ultimately led to the city of Cremona, Italy. Fortuitously, Jackson arrived in Cremona just in time to purchase a collection of manuscripts, which were scheduled for transfer to the Vatican Library in Rome. Together, these manuscripts make up the Cremona Document. According to Zena Halpern, the Cremona Document is essentially a collection of journals written by various members of the Knights Templar. All of these manuscripts are written in the Latin language with the Theban alphabet, the latter being a writing system used by Renaissance alchemists, but which Zena suggests might actually be several thousand years old. The first group of documents purports to be the lost writings of the founders of the Knights Templar. These manuscripts describe a 12th century exploration of Jewish catacombs beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The exploration becomes an excavation once one of the knights nearly succumbs to a booby trap, revealing a vast hidden chamber beneath the floor. Inside this chamber, the knights discover a lost Gnostic gospel, the bones of John the Baptist, and the legendary lost gold of King Solomon. Also in the chamber are scrolls describing a 1st century voyage across the Atlantic Ocean to the, quote, land of Ontiara, unquote, as well as a number of navigational devices. The bulk of the Cremona document is comprised of a manuscript entitled A Year We Remember, which Zena sometimes refers to as the Ontiara document. This manuscript purports to be the lost journal of Ralph de Soudeley, an English knight who joined the Knights Templar in the late 12th century. In this journal, de Soudeley describes making a voyage across the Atlantic with the help of King Valdemar I of Denmark in 1178. Upon reaching the New World, de Soudeley discovers a matriarchal tribe of goddess-worshipping Welshmen, who initiate him into their cult. After completing the initiation rite, the priestess presents the knight with a 1,000-year-old clay cylinder containing 1st century Christian documents, which had been stored in a cave in what is now Hunter Mountain, New York. One of these documents prompts de Soudeley to return to the Old World, where he discovers the Ark of the Covenant and other treasures hidden beneath the ancient city of Petra in present-day Jordan. In her book, Halpern explains that the Knights Templar kept the Cremona document in the library of a Cistercian abbey called the Castrum Sepulchri, located on the coast of northern Italy in the Principality of Saborga. When the Knights Templar were suppressed in 1307, Templar Knights hid the document in the city of Cremona, located about 200 miles to the northeast. Eventually, the document found its way into the archives of the monastery of San Sigismondo, located just outside Cremona's historic center. It remained in San Sigismondo for 5 centuries. In 1971, the monastery's custodian of records, named Gustavesti Benvenuto, arranged to donate the San Sigismondo documents to the Vatican. Just before the donation was completed, Dr. William Jackson offered to buy the Cremona document off Benvenuto. With the permission of the Vatican, the custodian agreed. According to a letter from one of Jackson's associates to Zena Halpern, Jackson managed to purchase the document for 15,000 Italian lire. That's about $12 Canadian. In her book, Halpern contends that the genuineness of the Cremona document is supported by the fact that, according to a letter written to her by one of William Jackson's associates, a Vatican librarian, quote, verified its authenticity and that of the signature of Ralph de Soudeley, unquote, which appends the Ontiara document. Unfortunately, the veracity of this assertion is called into question when one considers that wax seals were the chief form of personal authentication in the Middle Ages, and that written signatures were uncommon in the Christian world until the 16th century. Furthermore, the Cremona document, or at least the English translation of it which appears in Zena's book, is riddled with historic and linguistic anachronisms, including modern English idioms, phonetic renderings of modern words, and descriptions of armaments incongruent with the period in which the narrative is set, which seriously diminish its credibility. In the opinion of this author, at least, the Cremona document appears to be a hoax. In a 2018 article published on the personal blog of forensic geologist Scott Walter, host of the TV series America Unearthed, Halpern's friend and fellow researcher, Donald Rue, with whom she had a falling out prior to her death, describes how Halpern came into the possession of the Cremona document. He claims, using photos of a legal document as evidence, that the mysterious William Jackson bequeathed him the Cremona document, and that he acquired it in 2008, 8 years after Jackson's death. He shared the document with Halpern in 2009, with the understanding that the two of them would co-author a book on the subject. Rue claims that he had a falling out with Halpern in 2016, shortly after which Halpern contacted the Lagina brothers and informed them of her theory. Zena Halpern's Oak Island theory, as outlined in her book, The Templar Mission to Oak Island and Beyond, hinges heavily upon information that Zena received from the mysterious William Jackson and his even more enigmatic associates. The theory which this information seems to suggest, which this author frankly considers pure and pernicious fantasy, goes something like this. Thousands of years before Christ, the Phoenicians of present-day Lebanon began making voyages across the Atlantic Ocean to the New World. Knowledge of this distant land on the other side of the world spread to the Israelites, citizens of the Kingdom of Israel, which was Phoenicia's neighbor and closest ally. At the time of the first Phoenician transatlantic voyages, Israel was ruled by King Solomon, a wise monarch who acquired a vast treasure of gold and silver. Solomon kept his treasure, along with the Ark of the Covenant and other Jewish religious artifacts, in an enormous temple he built atop Mount Moriah, known today as the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This building became known as the Temple of Solomon. In the centuries that ensued, Israel was conquered by a succession of empires, including Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Macedon, and Rome. Despite this, the Jews managed to keep some of their most sacred treasures, including scrolls containing knowledge of the New World, hidden in a number of secret locations. Before the Babylonian conquest of 587 BC, which saw the destruction of the Temple of Solomon, a group of Israelites managed to transport the Ark of the Covenant and other treasures down Mount Moriah and overland to the city of Petra in present-day Jordan. They buried these treasures nearby, in a subterranean aqueduct beneath a mountain called Jebel al-Mabda. The gold of King Solomon and scrolls containing knowledge of the New World, however, remained on Mount Moriah, hidden in secret chambers carved from the living rock. At the time of Christ's crucifixion, which took place during the Roman occupation of Israel, a number of Christ's disciples also worshipped an ancient Canaanite goddess called Asherah. In 70 AD, when the Romans besieged Jerusalem in the aftermath of a Jewish revolt, members of this heretical Christian sect hid their gospel, along with the bones of John the Baptist, in the secret chamber that held Solomon's treasure. That accomplished, they fled Israel with other important Christian documents, and the scrolls describing the treasure beneath Jebel al-Mabda, and followed the ancient Phoenician route to the New World. 1,000 years later, following the First Crusade, 9 Frankish knights formed a monastic military order called the Knights Templar. These knights established their headquarters atop Temple Mount, and began exploring Jewish catacombs deep beneath the mountain. During their explorations, they stumbled upon the secret chamber containing King Solomon's treasure and the relics of the aforementioned Christian sect. The Templars adopted the goddess-worshipping doctrine espoused by this cult and appropriated the gold of King Solomon. In 1178, an English Templar knight named Ralph de Soudeley decided to search for the New World described in the scrolls beneath Temple Mount. With the help of King Valdemar I of Denmark, he followed old Viking routes to the New World and followed the coast south to what is now the state of New York. There, he discovered tribes of Jews, Welsh Celts, and Norsemen who had been living there for centuries, worshipping the goddess Asherah and living in a matriarchal society. These Old World peoples served as guardians of the scrolls brought from the Holy Land during the 1st century AD, i.e. important Christian documents, and the scrolls describing the treasure beneath Jebel al-Mabda, which they kept in a cave on Hunter Mountain, New York. After being initiated into the cult, Ralph de Soudeley was gifted the aforementioned scrolls by a Celtic priestess. Using the information contained therein, he returned to the Holy Land, apparently drawing the 1179 map of Nova Scotia before his departure, and discovered the Ark of the Covenant beneath Jebel al-Mabda. Centuries later, in 1307, members of the freshly outlawed Knights Templar took the Ark to Scotland, where they assisted the Scots in defeating the English army of King Edward II at the Battle of Bannockburn. In 1397, one of the Templars' successors, Henry Sinclair, Earl of Orkney, sailed to the New World with the Ark of the Covenant and buried the sacred artifact on Oak Island. Before he returned to the Old World, he drew the 1347 map of Oak Island. In her book, Halpern makes it clear that, while the 1179 map of Nova Scotia is a component of the Cremona Document, the 1347 map of Oak Island and the cryptic document called La Formule are not. Halpern, Donald Rue, and a mutual friend named Harry Weimer came across the latter 2 documents by chance while visiting at Halpern's home during Christmas holidays in 2011. While examining a book that had belonged to the late William Jackson, the friends found a strange note scribbled on the back inside cover. The message read, quote, "A natty holds the key now. That's why I use this page. The Frenchman was right. They wanted the info about the tunnels, so they bought the documents from me, but they didn't get it. Who has it now? I think it was broken up into 8 parts. I have 4. What happened to the rest?" 1996. La bella Roma Rollo, mi amante le ostrica, unquote. The note's mention of the word Anati prompted the 3 friends to inspect another of Jackson's old books, namely Palestine Before the Hebrews by Emmanuel Anati. Donald Rue observed an unusual bulge in this book's back cover. He slit the cover open with a knife and found 2 documents inside, the 1347 map of Oak Island and La Formule. A note scribbled in the margins of La Formule designated that document a gift to William Jackson from one Tim McInnes. With the help of her friend Judy Rudabush, who appeared in Season 6, Episode 6 and Season 8, Episode 5 of The Curse of Oak Island, Halpern discovered that Tim McInnes was the late brother of the 3 McGinnis sisters who appeared in The Curse of Oak Island's Season 3 finale. This discovery prompted Halpern to contact the Lagina brothers and initiate her involvement with the TV show. In the aforementioned article on Scott Walter's blog, Donald Rue argued that the 1347 Oak Island map was, quote, never in any way connected to the Cremona Document material or the medieval Knights Templar, unquote, but was rather likely fabricated by Bill Jackson as part of a plot to entrap a member of Propaganda Due, an Italian secret society with far-reaching political ambitions. As evidence to support his position, Rue includes a photo in his article of a redacted letter which William Jackson purportedly wrote to him on August 21, 1979. The letter mentions, quote, a design that appears to have a solution to the Oak Island treasure, unquote, which Jackson and his associates imprinted on the back of another letter, which they hoped certain Propaganda Due members would, quote, bid on, unquote. One potential problem with this document is that it appears to have been typed using a proportional font, probably Times New Roman, in which each letter has a different width. Most typewriters in 1979 used monospace fonts, in which each letter has the same width. The fact that the document appears to have been produced with modern word processing software, coupled with the fact that it bears the signature of William Jackson, ruling out the possibility that it is the transcript of an original letter, suggests that the document may be a forgery. Whatever the case, Donald Rue's testimony adds yet another twist to the convoluted saga of the Cremona Document, and the mystery of Oak Island.